Hi, I'm Farah. Welcome back to my channel. Today is part 2 in a two-part series of how to draw and color the Little Mermaid. I started by using my peach color to layer down the darkest tones in her face. Then with the same color and a very light hand, I went all over her face to give a base coat of this very warm color. Then I left this tiny little line on her jawline that I didn't even let the color touch, because this is the lightest part in her face. Then with my ginger root color, I went with a very light coat over the darkest parts in her face. Now with the light peach, I blended all that out and also leaving this very fine line on her jawline that I didn't touch with color until now. Now, as you can see, I lost the contrast a little bit at this stage. I know that I'm gonna layer more light tones on top and more dark tones on top, so just keep that in mind. Now going again with the peach color, defining the dark tones again and trying to get more contrast. Now with the white, I'm defining the light tones a bit more and making her cheeks pop out a little bit. I'm defining the dark tones a bit further with my terracotta color, and at this stage I do not worry about blending too much because I have a wax base already on my paper, so I'm just layering down my color, then blending it out with my light peach or with my white. As you can see on her jawline, after layering a very thin layer of my light peach, I went over it with white. Now with the crimson lake, I'm defining the shapes of her eyebrows, and with a Polychromos black, I'm drawing her eyelashes. Then I'm gonna go on top of that with my Prismacolor black, which is a more opaque black, to define the shapes of her eyelashes a bit more. Now with the true blue, I'm defining the shape of her iris. Then I'm gonna use my peach to define the eyelid and to give her eye more shape. Coloring the pupil, I used my true blue with a very light hand, then went on top of that with my light aqua and with a white to make it pop out a bit more. Then I used my black to do my second coat on the iris to make the contrast appear a little bit more. Now with my crimson lake, I outlined her lips, then colored the lips with the very same color and went on top of that with my white. I'm going to use the same techniques I used in her face on her body, which is putting a light coat with my peach color, then defining the darkest tones on her body, and then adding layers on top of layers until I get to the desired look. Now I'm going to blend all that out with my alpha blending marker, and you can use your paint thinner or your blending pencil. Now for the best results, you want to keep layering on top of layering with your peach and your light peach. You might even want to blend with your white. And do not rush this area, give it its time. Like, don't go like, this is gonna be dark, so I'm gonna darken it all up, or this is gonna be light, so I'm gonna lighten it all up. You know, I know it's gonna be dark, but I'm gonna give it its time. I'm gonna put this coat, and then I'm gonna put another coat and another coat until it gets dark on its own. I'm gonna use my Parma Violet for the dark tones and my Lilac for the light tones, and I'm also gonna use my white to define the light tones a bit more. Now this area is as important as every other area in the drawing. Do not rush over this place. Like, do not go like this is gonna be purple and I'm gonna go with my white on top of each shell to give it the light tone. It's not gonna look bad, to be honest with you, but it's not gonna look professional. It's not gonna look amazing. So don't rush it. Give it its time. Each individual shell in this picture has got its light tones and its dark tones. So give it its time and do not rush this specific place. Now I'm blocking all the light areas on the shell with my Lilac. Then I'm gonna go on top of that with my white. Now I added with my violet blue a few lines on the beginning of each shell, then blended that out with my Lilac purple. So I'm gonna outline the hair and add some details to it so that when I color, the whole process would be easier. Now I'm gonna use my red from my soft pastel kit to just layer a base coat of red on top of all her hair. If you don't have pastel at home, it's not important. It's not important at all. I just put it down so that I feel like I finished something. So do not stress over this part. It's not important. I'm gonna use my hand to blend all that out, then use my Crimson Lake to start coloring. If you used your pastel, you're gonna want to erase all the color that has gone into Ariel, and you're gonna want to grab a paper to just prevent the colors from spreading all over. If you haven't, then start coloring with me right now. Now as you can see, I'm applying a very hard hand on my pencil right now because I really want it to be very dark. Now, as always, I'm gonna layer down the darkest tones first, then I'm gonna layer on top of layer until I get to the desired look. Now I'm using my crimson red to block in some of the light spaces that I left. I'm going to use my paint thinner to blend that whole thing out, and you can use your colorless blender or your marker. Right now I'm using my white to add the highlights and blend what haven't been blended with my paint thinner. Then I'm going to use my Crimson Lake and my Crimson Red to define the color a bit more. Now using my black Polychromos color, which is less opaque than my Prismacolor pencil, I'm gonna put the darkest tones in the picture, and then I'm gonna go on top of that to make it darker. Using my black Prismacolor, I'm gonna increase the contrast in this area. Now using my black pastel block, I'm gonna increase the darkness in the hair itself, but I do not want to add that with my black Prismacolor because it's gonna be too dark, and I can adjust it with my pastels a lot more easier. But again, if you do not have pastels at your home, do not stress over this and just do it with your pencil. blending my pastels with my finger, I went on top of that with my crimson red to blend it a bit more and make it a bit more reddish and decrease the darkness of the color a little bit. The next section in the hair is going to be done just like the first one, but it's a bit more bigger and trickier, so you want to pay attention in this part a little bit more. Knowing that this area is going to be so dark, I'm using my Crimson Lake to block it all out. Part is applied with a very high pressure on the pencil. Looking at my drawing and the reference photo, you're gonna notice that the reference photo is a little bit more orangey than mine, but I didn't like this orangey feel. I love it when it's true red, if you know what I mean. So that's why I'm using my crimson red and my crimson lake. But if you like this orangey feel free to add the highlights with your orange. Now blocking my dark tones with my Polychromos black, which is a less opaque black than my Prismacolor pencil. Now I blended everything with my marker, and you can use your paint thinner or your colorless blender. With my Crimson Lake, I'm copying the dark tones in the hair, and I'm paying a little bit more attention in this part because it has a lot of waves and a lot of different shapes, so like notice what needs to be where. If you're wondering how to draw this picture, I'll leave a link to my part 1 of how to draw a little mermaid down below in the description box, so go check it out. After doing a few layers with my reds, I'm going on top of that with my paint thinner. That is gonna make the red, as you can see, pop out a little bit more and seem so good. So you really want to use your paint thinner, otherwise you're gonna put many more layers on top of the layers that we have put before. Plus the contrast a little bit after blending that with my paint thinner, so I'm going to identify the colors a little bit more with my Crimson Lake. And if you're wondering about the materials that I used, I will list them down below in the video description, so if you want to, check it out. Now I'm using my Polychromos black to block down the darkest tones in the hair. Now the next part where I use my Prismacolor black to identify the very dark tones in the hair is not caught here in video, so I apologize for that, but you get the general idea. Now I use my acrylic white paint with my liner brush to add the light in her eyes. And this is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys!